the regular governing body to order. Please put your phones on vibrate or turn them off, and then stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilor Miera.
Here, sir.
Councilor Woolman.
Here.
Councilor Knight.
Here.
Councilor Alsobrook.
Here.
Councilor Burkett.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
All here. Has everyone had a chance to look over the agenda? If so, please, I need a motion to approve the agenda in a second.
So moved.
Second.
So who made the motion? Councilor Woolman, Councilor Miera seconded. Any comments? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. We will move on to the administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing up is Tanya for a COVID and other illnesses
I'll put my mask
update.
on real quick.
Oh, thank you, Mayor, Council, Administrator Curry. Sorry about the humming. My computer fan has decided it's just going to run all the time. So COVID update and all other things. Let's start with some good news. Flu. The media kept saying we were in a triple demic, and we did have a very early flu season, but it has not been bigger than other flu seasons. It just came earlier. So that's good news. However, New Mexico is still the only state that is considered high. The rest of the country is low. New Mexico still has high influenza-like illness. Part of that could be driven by COVID as well as RSV. Norovirus is definitely here. Lots of people have vomited and diarrhea. The big thing with norovirus is, remember, hand sanitizer does not kill it. Bleach solution works really well, and it can live on surfaces for a long, long time. And it only takes about 18 virus particles to infect you with norovirus. So washing your hands is really, really important. And if you've had someone in your home, you got to clean the sheets and wipe everything down, because you can get it more than once. It does go back and forth. And then COVID. As we all know that the national emergency declaration will be ending May 11th. So I'm starting to work on what that means, because it is going to affect people. It means that people who don't have insurance are not going to be able to get vaccines unless they're children. It means people without insurance may have to pay for Paxlovid. We're hoping that anything that's already been national stockpile will still get to give for free. And the state of New Mexico is doing some stuff to work with uninsured people and trying to ramp up some stuff with that. It also means that free testing will go away for the uninsured as well. Some of the big things is it's going to change things like the SNAP benefit, which is the supplemental food nutrition assistance program. That's actually changing as of tomorrow. It was not refunded. So that's going to impact families that, struggle for food and haven't had to struggle as much for a while. As far as COVID in New Mexico, we have been doing some increases. Corrales definitely has. Corrales had 27 cases for the month of February, which doesn't seem like a lot, but those are the lab reported cases. And 50% of those were in the last 7 days. So if we have 13 to 14 new cases that are lab reported, you need to look for 5 to 10 to 15 others that aren't, because people, if they find out they've been exposed and they're sick, they can home test and get treatment. So we were going up. I'm hoping not for much longer. Wastewater, the Sandoval County wastewater had been a big spike, and now it's coming down. Bernalillo County has been lower, but I really they don't tell me how often they collect. I don't get a picture of how good the wastewater sampling is in New Mexico. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that. And that's really all I have for an update. We do still have tests, Village Hall, library, the fire station. If you call, we'll put them out for you. We do still have free home tests available for you. We have some that expire for this year, and we have some that go into 2 of 2024 that we haven't been putting out until we get rid of the others. We're down to maybe 100, 150 of the ones that expire in April. So if you need a test, please come get a test. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Councilor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilors. So Commander Tanya, do you know, is the state going to follow suit there along with the national emergency? Or are they going to cancel their emergency declaration as well?
My guess is they will. I don't see why they wouldn't, because it's kind of like our emergency declaration will tie into state to get state funding, and the state one ties into the federal to get funding. I think if the national one is canceled, the only way the state would get more funding is if we could prove that it was really hitting our state hard and in different ways. So my guess is that we will also, but I do know they are trying to do some stuff for the uninsured. And then the federal government hopefully will be too. I've been told vaccines will still be free until the national stockpile is depleted. I can still order them, but they're expecting it to be depleted by fall. And some of the vaccine stuff hasn't been moving fast. Moderna's getting ready to expire almost every vaccine they've produced for primary series for over 6, which is the monovalent, and they still haven't looked to say what is going to be allowed for first series after April. So there's a lot of stuff that I think the federal government's really trying to work through right now.
But do you anticipate that it'll still be on the 11th, the same as the national date?
Probably. I don't know. I do have a meeting with Department of Homeland Security tomorrow at 4. We're doing a huge brief out. And I'll see if I can get some information from you. If I do, I'll have Melanie send an email to council.
Thank you.
Councilor Mira?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to say I picked up the Main Street News this afternoon, and there's a well-deserved article about how great Tanya is. So congratulations on that article.
Yeah. Hear, hear.
Yes, thank you very much, Tanya.
Thank you. Wendy's a very good writer and a very good interviewer. So
She tries to make us all look good. Any other questions? Tanya, thank you very much.
Okay. Next, I'd just like to have Melanie, I know it's on the agenda in a different place, but she's going to give a very abbreviated shout out to what we're doing with the microchipping.
So the microchipping ordinance has gone to Randy's office for review, but I have sent them a whole bunch of stuff over the last several weeks. So it's in the queue for their review. And Corey's been working hard to help us with so many different things. So she's working on the personnel code for us. She's finished up the lodger's tax updates for us, which the lodger's tax board is going to look at here in the next couple of weeks. And then we'll present to you once they take a look at it. So yeah, animal services is definitely going to be looked at as well. And we're updating the whole ordinance, not just the microchipping, but that's in there.
Okay. The next item is just a very brief update on our comprehensive plan light. We are working with an individual here in the village that lives here in the village, and we're trying to get out our exact plan that we're going to follow, that we can tell you about, how we're going to get members onto the committee. I think we've got about 10 people now who have expressed interest in serving. So we're going to go through those names, and obviously some of them will get on, some of them won't, but we're going to revisit their survey a little bit before we send it out, trying to make it as simple as we can and consolidate some of the things from the last comprehensive plan. But we are in them. We started off, and then that we've taken a step back so that we can be as comprehensive as possible, as light as possible, as detailed as possible, and as efficiently quick as possible. So by the time we have our next meeting, I'll have a little more detail that I can describe to you as to some timelines and things like that. But one of the key things on this is that we're trying to get our plan for the plan laid out so that 6 months from now, we don't have to make a change in the process. But more at the next meeting. I wanted to happily report that because we worked in conjunction with the state construction industry divisions, which is part of regulation and licensing, and with the city of Rio Rancho, we will be bringing back a brand new building official. Brian Gresham will come on the job on March 16th. And then on March 27th, which is the following Monday, I believe, no, it's a week from the following Monday, we will start taking permit applications from the village here. Up until that time, the state will continue to do it, but that will be the cutoff date. We're going to give Brian about a week and a half to kind of get in here and settle down. He comes to us from Rio Rancho, highly recommended both by Rio Rancho and the state of New Mexico, for that matter, in the construction industry division. So we're looking forward to having him on board. He comes with extraordinary great work ethic, has been described to us. And one of the examples that I got from the city manager at Rio Rancho was that he works until his job is done for the day, and then he continues working, and they've had to force him to take overtime on occasion because he just wants to get the job done. So we're looking forward to having him here working for us. And one of the nice things about it, it's a pay-for position. So the permit that he collects and the revenue from that will now start coming to the village instead of going to the state. So and we had this position budgeted into our budget, so we didn't have to come to you and create a new position. And so we have some funding in it as well. But again, it's a pay-for position, which is nice. Speaking of money, the LGIP fund now has $4,428,904.16. And the amount of interest that we collected last month was $16,131. So I guess that's the only good thing we can say about high interest rates. The property, the Jones property, the majority of the hazardous material has been mitigated or removed from the property. If you looked in the property, Melanie and I were over there this afternoon. If you looked in the property, you could see it looks like demolition has already started taking place because they had to remove some of the walls to get to some of the material that they had to mitigate. So, but it's moving along, and we anticipate that the total demolition hopefully will be completed within the month of March.
Yes, Councilor Knight.
I have a question for Public Works, Michael Chavez, if he's on.
Michael, are you up there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Michael. I just wanted to see if you had any updates on the bridge crossing at West Ella and Loma Larga, when that will be addressed.
Sorry, out of order.
We'll probably have them here probably the 1st of April.
Okay, thank you. I had a call from a constituent right before I left, and he asked me to ask. So by the 1st of April, probably?
Yes, that's what we're looking at.
Okay, thanks so much.
Do you have any more?
Yes.
Did you wait? Go ahead. No, go ahead, Ron.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of make a little update on some things. We have, as you well know, we have a lot of enthusiasm for a lot of committees within the village, and we celebrate that every day. We embrace it, and every now and then, the folks on the committee get frustrated because we can't give them the right answers. And so Everybody, of course, has the right, and we encourage them to talk to their elected officials or officials outside of Corrales. That's their right. We encourage it. We had a situation where some folks on the equestrian committee, with a great deal of enthusiasm, have been frustrated, and understandably so, with the lack of the lighted crossings for the equestrians. And we work with the state. We talk about them with the state. Michael does. They ask us for things, and we get them some things. Well, some of the folks on the committee went directly to the Department of Transportation, and without letting us know that it was happening, and that's fine. But what happens is that the Department of Transportation pretty much said to them, we work only through the village government. And so, and the information that was sent to them was old information and incorrect, and was nothing that the DOT wanted to see. So we want people to communicate. That's their right. We encourage it, but we would just caution folks that if they want to call us and say, what's going on this, I'm going to call up to my legislator, I'm going to call up to a staff person in Santa Fe. We'll give you all the information that we know. It's wide open to you if they want to call. So just kind of a heads up on that, because we don't want to go one step forward and 2 or 3 steps backwards because we irritate a state employee. So just kind of rolling that up the flagpole. Now I'd like to ask Melanie to put someone on the screen, and I'd like to ask Chief Vic to come up and talk about it.
Sticking with the good news theme, I'd also like to point out that what I believe is his 50th anniversary of his first film, Sergeant Betts, who most of you have met in the back of the room, decided to jump out of a perfectly good airplane again last Friday and survive. The fact that he's here is great, but we might have to look at our psychological testing. Partner had a very good sales company. That's right. Walter Deaton last week was awarded with the VFW Public Service Award, rightfully so. And unfortunately, Walt couldn't be here with us tonight, but if you don't mind, I'd like to read the nomination letter to our local VFW folks in the state December 5th of 2022, and addressed to VFW Corrales Chapter Commander Charles Brown. Dear Commander Brown, please accept this nomination for Corrales Police Department Officer Walter Deaton, who's taken into consideration for the law enforcement public service award.
Can you hold on just one second, Chief?
Since joining the Corrales Police Department on May 3rd, 1986, Officer Heaton has proven himself to be instrumental in strengthening community police relationships by consistently interacting with the public in a positive manner. In addition to diligently carrying out his daily patrol duties, Officer Heaton has taught drug abuse resistance education, also known as DARE, classes to elementary school students in the village for 30 years, as well as gang resistance education and training, also known as GREAT courses, to our local kids. Officer Heaton unfailingly assists with community outreach efforts such as the Cops and Crayons School Supply Drive, Books and Badges Student Reading Program, and Neighborhood Watch Crime Prevention Initiative. Year after year, Officer Heaton has been a steady presence at special events throughout the village, including Harvest Festival, the 4th of July Parade, the Tractor Show, and Starlight Parade. Officer Heaton has received 31 formal letters of commendation or appreciation and countless informal accolades for his outstanding service to the community. Thank you for your time and consideration, and please don't hesitate to contact me for any additional information.
Thank you, Chief.
One last thing. The last thing I have is short on the Gonzalez property. We're still in the same position we were 2 weeks ago.
Okay, now it's time for the Counselors Forum. And actually, Stuart raised his hand a long time ago, and then Bill, and then Rick. How's that? Okay, go ahead, Stuart.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Councilor. So going back to the signalized crosswalks and the PAR from Main Street. Have we had any response from the state about the submission by the Main Street folks for the pedestrian access route?
Not
No.
that I'm aware of.
No.
I'm sorry?
Our next
No.
meeting with DOT is March 16th.
Okay.
So we may get an update then.
So the meeting is when? I'm sorry, I missed that.
March 16th.
Oh, okay.
So we could probably update you at the
So
March
that'll be
28th.
that'll be when
meeting.
we're talk to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'll probably let you know right now, I'm thinking about making a statement on March 17th at the Metropolitan Transportation Planning Group about the same thing, about if the state's not going to do the walk, they need to do it because the safety is job one. And they're not progressing fast enough as far as I'm concerned. It's been 3 years since we submitted this.
It's been longer than that.
Well, I understand, but since I come on the council and been pushing for these signalized crosswalks, it's been over 3 years. That's way too long. So I'm just warning you ahead of time. I'm going to make a statement the following on that Metropolitan
Okay, no
Transportation Plan.
problem. Okay, Counselor Woolman.
Yeah, so as a follow-up to the denial of the appeal of the administrative plan, complex plan, there was discussion of tweaking and having some discussion to alter that concept. At that meeting and throughout the village has been support for new animal services building. As mentioned before, these concrete cell blocks, insufficient ventilation, inadequate cooling and heating, among other problems. We have estimates of the time frame to acquire and assemble the building. We have cost estimates of substantial funds toward final assembly. Tomorrow is the 1st of March. It will take 2 to 3 months for the building to be acquired, assembled, and somewhat longer until it's operational. This will put us in the heat of the summer. The placement of the building will not affect the eventual tweaking of the overall plan. I request that we proceed in ordering and constructing the building at the site indicated as fully as possible. And I would ask Randy how we as a council can proceed to get this accomplished. What do we need to do to move that along?
Randy, let me just interrupt just a second. Counselor, I signed a document today for facility build to start, just based on a lot of the things that you just said. And as soon as we get a date that they think they'll be complete, Melanie has already contacted the folks for the shelter itself, and the prices are still the same. So we kicked that off
Great.
this afternoon.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Councilor
Really
Miera?
appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ron, for starting us off talking about where we're going to be at with the comprehensive plan, and that people are invited. It just so happens that I want to take note of one of my constituents is sitting in the audience, but she too has been very interested in getting involved with the comprehensive plan. Send me an email or two, and so, but just to let you know that there are people very interested in wanting to contribute. So you let us know when and how that's going to happen, and there's going to be myself as well as members, of course, of the council, but other members as well in the community that want to help. So just let us know how we can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, Counselor Burkett.
Just 2 quick points. The Corrales Rec League Basketball League has completed as of about a week and a half ago. I just wanted to congratulate Parks and Rec. Lynn did a great job. Mackenzie did an incredible job. She basically ran the program from start to finish. I want to make sure that she receives kudos for doing a really good job. And then something that Ron brought up earlier, the committees and how much appreciation we have for everyone as commissions and committees. I would love to see at some point, we maybe try to find a time in the summer to do like a barbecue where we can try to get all the commissions and committees and village employees and just do an appreciation lunch, if that's something that's possible, to get everybody in one general vicinity, let them chat with each other and give them something tangible that they can eat to thank them for their time and effort. Oh.
I like that idea.
Hmm?
I like that idea.
Okay.
Mayor, I have
Yes,
one-
Counselor Woolman.
One other quick thing. I saw today that there's going to be a celebration of the 120th anniversary of Sandoval County on March 10th. I'm planning on going to that. They're going to have a big cake. It's going to be 11 o'clock in the morning. But I wanted to mention to Melanie that there may be other council members who want to attend in terms of quorum and those kinds of things.
Yep, well, the village will be there. They're doing a job fair in conjunction with that. So I'll be there as well, promoting our wonderful police department, that we have some positions open there. I think fire is good for now on their applications, but then we also have some positions open with Public Works.
Now,
So-
March 10th, that sounds
That's
very
That
familiar.
is a special day, yes.
Yes. It's Melanie's birthday.
My birthday.
Wow.
That's why they did.
That's a celebration.
That's
that-
right.
is that why they're
Yeah,
having
the
cake?
cake is all for me, that's right.
120 years ago, Sandoval County was.
That's right.
When dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Any other counselors? Yes, Councilor Murphy.
One more thing, I was reading the packet today, and I would like to urge that the Planning and Zoning Commission, if they have any concerns about the ordinances, that they go ahead and convene a work study and send up their recommendations, because they don't have to wait for us to do anything, to send stuff down to them. They should be proactive about this, and I noticed some of the concerns in the minutes seem to be about the number of people in short-term rentals and so forth. So if they have recommendations, convene a work study and just send us the recommendations, then we'll deal with it.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay, so now we'll move on to Coriolis Forum, and this section is for informational purposes only, not for discussion and debate, to inform the governing body of an issue or concern that would not be addressed on the agenda during the business session. There is a 3-minute time limit.
Mr. Kurt Flora,
Mr. Flora.
and if you state your name and address for the record, please, you'll have 3 minutes.
Kurt Flora, 560 Andrews Lane, Corrales, New Mexico. Last week, there was an appeals hearing. In that appeals hearing, Mr. Patrick McLaren, I believe his name is, stated some issues about Lori not knowing the ordinances. Same thing I've been stating for 5 years. 3 months from now, it'll be 5 years since we started this subdivision, and we're still not there, okay? 60-day marks on your ordinances. You have 60 days to hear hearings and stuff like that. Well, not according to Lori. She can pass them 60-day marks. It doesn't matter to her. 60 days, there's no penalty to her. If it was us passing the 60 days, there would be an issue. We wouldn't be passed or anything else. Nothing would be done. 1886 calls that 60 days. 1887 calls that 60 days. Our first hearing, okay? We get our first hearing in July. We don't go till 61 days before we're heard on our next hearing. In between that 60 days there, we filed an appeal. August 9th, 2018, we filed an appeal. Our appeal was never heard, okay? We never got an appeals hearing. We were denied our appeals hearing, let alone our 60 days, okay? On top of that, you got ordinances. Our application for final plat was turned in December 7th, 2018. We should have been on the January 16th, 2019 meeting. We didn't get in till February 20th. That's way more than 60 days. February 20th. Our conditions were met. Our conditions are met. There was 3 conditions. 1, the plat said net versus gross equal the same. 2, we allowed the 120-foot roadway. And 3 was Lori Stout worked with the MRGCD on the ditch crossing. I have Lori Stout saying, I can't do what the commission's asking me to do. Well, that's not my problem. That's your all's problem. We had our conditions met. In your thing, if the conditions are met, you have 60 days or the final plat is approved upon demand. Okay? You guys, Lori doesn't have to follow the ordinances. These are the ordinances. Apparently, we have to follow them, but you guys don't. Mr. Curry there said just a minute ago something about, well, come to your counselors and talk about the equestrian. We come to you guys and it goes in one ear and out the other ear all the time. Every meeting I come to, it goes in one of your guys' ear and out the other all the time.
Thank you, Mr. Flora,
So
that's your
we
time.
have to go above the commissions and the councils to get anything done.
Thank you, Mr. Flora. Okay, on to consent agenda. We have minutes for February 7th, minutes for February 21st, special meeting, Resolution 23-13 bar, and 2314 annual records destruction. You would make a brief comment? Well, wait a minute, before you do that, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion to approve from Counselor Burkett and a second from Counselor Woolman. Okay, just a brief comment about the records.
So you had a list of the records in the agenda packet. We went through all those records over at the Jones House and here in Village Hall, and we followed the retention schedule that you approved for us back in December. Total number of boxes is about 200.
200 boxes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we have a shredding company from Albuquerque that will be coming in. We're looking at March 9th if everything is approved tonight. And they will come in and they will haul those boxes away and destroy everything and give us a certificate of destruction that we can keep on file.
Thank you. So are we ready for a vote? Counselor Murray.
Quick question. Thank you, Mayor, Counselor. So does any document that is pending litigation, has that been removed from these documents that are to be destroyed? I mean, is there anything that we may have that has pending litigation that might be necessary to keep?
The short answer is no, but I'll let Melanie talk.
Yeah, anything with pending litigation is held in a separate file.
Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Mira, how do you vote?
Yes.
Counselor Woolman.
Aye.
Counselor Knight.
Yes.
Counselor Alsobrook.
Aye.
Counselor Burkett.
Aye.
Counselor Murray.
Aye.
So consent agenda is approved, is passed. New business, consideration, action, and approval of ordinance 23-01. This was the ordinance that we requested some additional information or approval or guidance from planning and zoning, and we published and posted last month. Are there any further questions or comments? And I will entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve ordinance 23-01.
Okay, we have a motion to approve 23-01. Do I have a second? Second from Counselor Miera. Any discussion? Any comments? How do you vote, Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Okay, ordinance 23-01 is approved. Consideration, action, approval of appeal findings for variant 22-08. I think we got those numbers. Oh, is the other one. That was 22-08. Did you want to say anything?
Simply that I tried to capture the discussions of council and in the cases, the first one was the denial of the appeal on the site plan, and the second was the one being referred to here as the variance, and it was remanded back with instructions to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Do I have a motion to approve the appeal findings for variance 22-08?
So moved.
So I have a motion from Counselor Murray to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Counselor Alsobrook. Any discussion? Anything somebody wants to comment on or ask a question? Yes, sir, Counselor Miera.
Mayor, what we are doing is we are accepting the fact that it's going to be remanded back. That's pretty much where we're at.
We're basically accepting the findings of those two appeals that Randy has put into legalese so that it's all organized.
Yes, and so with this vote, it is the remand back to
Yes.
PZ.
That's what I thought. Okay.
How do you vote, Counselor Murray?
Yes.
Counselor Burkett?
Aye.
Counselor Alsobrook?
Aye.
Counselor Miera?
Yes, sir.
Counselor Woolman?
Aye.
Counselor Knight?
Aye.
Okay. So we've approved the appeal findings for the variant 22-08, variance, not variance, but variance of 22-08. Now we'll have a consideration, action, and approval of appeal findings for site development plan 22-07. That's the administration's campus. Do I have a motion to approve the appeal findings for site development 22-07?
So moved.
Counselor Woolman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Counselor Murray. So I have a motion to approve and a second. Findings for Site Development Plan 22-07. Any comments or questions? How do you vote, yes, ma'am.
You know, I hate to be bringing this up again, but did we ever vote on the location of the animal control building?
Can you speak into the microphone?
Oh, sorry. Did we ever vote as a council as to where the animal
No,
control was going to be?
no. We put it right where it was.
Right. I guess I have some feelings about putting it right next to hopefully where the commercial kitchen will be.
It won't be right next to it, but it'll be a building in the area.
Well, it will be right next to it.
Well, it'll be close.
And I just feel as though, you know, we didn't kind of kick around the idea of it could be someplace else where there would be more room for, I know it has ventilation and I know it's supposed to be soundproof and smell proof, but again, I needed to bring it up because people have asked me to, as well as I feel as though, you know, there's other places in the village that we could have looked at maybe, like over by Public Works or over by the fire department up north. And we were never asked.
That's right.
So it was, again, I
This was-
just
this
bring it
was
up
a-
as a
this-
concern.
This was felt to be a good place, centralized. People are accustomed to coming here. We had a good plan. We were given a good design, let's say, approach. And we've seen the building. We see how much space it takes up. We've made some modifications so it'll blend in with all the other buildings here in the village. It'll be stuccoed. It'll look just like any other government building. We do not have a commercial kitchen next door yet.
Right.
So to base all of our decisions on what might happen a year or two down the road, it's just difficult. We need to move forward on the things that we know and the things that we can get done in a timely fashion to deal with issues that have been of concern for several years now. I mean, Councilor Woolman will tell you, this has been going on a long time.
Right, and I know he's done a lot of work with it, and I appreciate all he's done, and everybody else. But I just felt as though there were other places that could accommodate it, that might be better.
If I may, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Counselor, and counselors, so the decision that you made that is being memorialized by the findings and conclusions on this case tonight was of the site plan presented. The debate, if there is going to be one, would be something that you would ask for, and the administration has their position on it at a future meeting when it's on the agenda. This is just
Right,
approving
it's just the site.
or turning down the findings and conclusions on the approval of the site plan.
Right, okay. And thank you.
Sure. Councilor Alsterbrook, are you guys ready to vote? Councilor Alsterbrook, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Knight?
Aye.
Councilor Woolman?
Aye.
Councilor Burkett?
Aye.
Councilor Murray?
Aye.
Councilor Miera?
Yes, sir.
So we have approved the appeal findings for Site Development Plan 22-07. Now we're going to have a brief discussion, number 4, on opting into the general election for election of municipal officers. And, you know, Melanie, I feel like you're the best student in the class because I keep calling on you.
I'm going to come up to the podium.
But she has actually done the research and has talked to the Secretary of State and has some information that I think will be beneficial and helpful in making a decision, or perhaps not making a decision.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. So when we did our election in March of 2022, when I went to Sandoval County to certify our election results, the Assistant County Elections Clerk got up and addressed I believe there were 6 municipalities there that ran their own election in Sandoval County. And they asked us to consider opting into the November election because it would make life a little easier for them so that they weren't having to run 3 elections. In addition to that, they did say that for the next election, they would still let us use their voting tabulators, but we would not have access to their what's called the RTR server. And that's where we take all of the memory cards from our tabulators and upload the results to the Secretary of State on election night. So the cost to rent an RTR server, that is something that we could rent from our voting, our election vendor. But it would be over $3,000 just for that one piece of equipment for that one night. So in looking at our budget, we have budgeted $10,000 over the last couple of years for our election. The last election, we spent just under $9,000, but that is because we didn't have it in our budget to hire people to help with early voting. So early voting was strictly done in my office. I was there the entire time. There were days towards the end of early voting, I was not able to do any of the clerk's jobs because I was there from right at 8 o'clock till 5 o'clock. And that's fine, you know, I don't mind doing that. But the feedback I got from the voters was, why do you keep moving my voting place? You know, in March, they vote in my office. But in June, if they want to early vote, they go to the county clerk's office. In November, if they want to vote early, they go to the county clerk's office, or they can come here to the community center when the convenience voting opens up. And so, you know, and then in November, we had people coming here saying, I want to vote. And I had to say, I'm sorry, we're not running this election. You have to go to the county. Well, why do you keep moving my voting place? And it's not that we're moving it, it's just it's in a different location based on who's running the election. So if we opted in, it would provide more options for people. They would be able to vote anywhere in Sandoval County. So say they're running errands and they see a voting convenience center somewhere in Rio Rancho, they can pop in there, they can get their ballot printed with the Corrales options. And I did check with the Secretary of State. If we did opt into the November election, the Corrales information would be #1 on the ballot. So #1 on that ballot would be mayor or judge, and then #2 on that ballot would be council members. #3 would be our bond issue if we had one. So no worries about us getting lost on the back side of the ballot. We would always be #1 right up front, because they print the ballot based on your precinct. So you get a customized ballot for you no matter if we're running the election or if the state is running the election. So I did some calculations of what the additional costs will be. The other big item of feedback I got was that we did not have enough voting machines. So we didn't have enough laptops to print the ballots for people to go and fill them out. Now, when we're voting here in my office, I only have space for one person to fill out a ballot at a time. If you look at the wonderful election handbook, the guidelines for early voting is that you're supposed to have space for 5 people to fill out a ballot at a time. That's their preferred. And you know, if you don't have the space, you can certainly write in and say, hey, I don't have the space. But their preferred, the state's preferred setup is to have space for 5 people to fill out a ballot at a time. So there were days we had lines from, we were doing the voting in what is now Sky's office, but we had people all the way down the hall out to Bridget's desk. And so, you know, people were having to wait 15, 20 minutes some days, and especially on days when we had somebody coming in that needed to register to vote. And that is an option. We don't have the option to tell somebody, I'm not participating in that. So if somebody comes in and they want a same day register, we have to do that. And when it's just me running the voting, it takes 10 minutes, which isn't that long. But when you have other people waiting, there's nobody that can fill in behind me to, well, now I have Sky, so she could help me next time. But this last year, I didn't have anybody helping me. And when I checked with the Secretary of State and said, hey, who can I get to help me? They said, well, you can bring in an election board, but anytime you have an election board, it has to be at least 3 people. So you're looking at paying each of those people. Right now, we pay $175 for the 2 election workers and $200 for an election judge. So you look at that, there's 12 days of early voting. If we bring in those people, you're looking at thousands of dollars in extra costs to pay our election workers. And there is a bill before the state legislature right now that would increase the costs or the amount that we would be allowed to pay somebody. $200 is not a whole lot when you're asking these people to work 12 or 14-hour days. And so the bill before the legislature is raising that to $400. So I'm not sure if that will pass or exactly when that would go into effect, but that's something else we have to look at going forward. Is, that's going to raise our costs for our election workers. And while we're on the subject of election workers, you have to make sure that you have kind of a balanced election board. So you can't have all your election workers be registered Democrats. And this last time, I put an ad in the Corrales comment. We had information in the mayor's message on the website. I think I even put an ad in the Albuquerque Journal asking for people that were interested to please apply to be an elections worker. I had 12 people and I hired all 12 of them. And it was hard making those boards legal because we have a very high percentage of registered Democrats here in the village. So finding somebody that was an independent, I was like, heck yeah, we need you. And so that was a challenge. And if the county was the one running it, they can pull from the entire county versus just the village itself. So I ran some numbers. If we get more laptops for the next election and just have Sky and I do the early voting, we would still need about $18,000 for our next election in our budget. So that is an increase of about $8,000 over our last election. If we want to move forward with this discussion, the next step would be to adopt an ordinance. We do have an ordinance that was put together by the Municipal League that's a sample ordinance. And you as the governing body would choose if you wanted to have your terms of office shortened or lengthened. So you could choose to shorten everybody's terms by about 3 to 4 months. Instead of being elected in March of 2024, the next election would be held in November of this year, 2023. So new officers would take office January 1st of 2024 instead of April 1st, 2024. And then again in 2026, instead of being voted in March, you would be November of 25. Or you could lengthen your terms and we would go to the election of 2025 and the election of 2027. So that would be a large increase in your terms of office. Are there any questions?
Councilwoman.
A couple quick questions. Thank you, Mayor. What other elections will be held this November? What else will be on the ballot this November?
It would be special districts like SCAFCA and school boards.
SCAFCA and school board?
School board, yeah.
And so if we were to opt in to do this and to shorten our terms, we would then be every other year as an off year, 23, 25, 27.
Correct. Yeah, it would be odd years.
As opposed to being on the on year, 24, 26. How would the ballot be affected? Let's say we were to extend to 26, November 24.
It would still be 25. So you would go, we don't have the choice of opting into an even year election. You only have the choice of opting into an odd year election.
Really? Yeah. So we would always be number one on the ballot?
Yes.
The village would always be number one on the ballot?
Yep, village would always be number one, and we would always be able to negotiate our polling places. I know that was a question Councilor Alsobrook had. The village already does an agreement with the county for our polling places. So the polling places would, here in the village, would still be the village community center, the rec center, and then they also do voting at Sandia View on election day.
I'm a little unclear. I'm
Yes,
sorry.
yeah.
A little unclear. I understand the part if we were to shorten our terms to this November.
Yes, if you extended them, it would go to the next odd year.
So it would actually be an extra year and a half or so.
That is correct.
20 months.
I see. Okay.
That is correct. So it would be a very lengthy term added on, and that would be for everybody, the judge, the mayor, and all 6 council seats.
Significant difference.
Yes.
And then the 3 of us who were elected in 20 20 would extend, and then the 2022 people would extend,
Correct.
that actually 20 months as well.
Yes, and then after that, you'd be
After
back
that, it's
on,
the-
yeah.
okay.
And there is an option in the election code, if we go through 2 election cycles, opted in, and we don't like it, we can go back. So that is an option, but you have to go through 2 cycles so that you catch everybody back up onto the same sort of schedule.
So you have 3 choices. You lose 3 or 4 months, you gain 20 months, or you do nothing. Zach raised his hand.
Just a quick question, Melanie. So the ranking on the ballot, being on a November election, I mean, I find it difficult to believe Sandoval County would put us ahead of some of the federal stuff, some of the state stuff. It seems like they rank them by jurisdiction, and maybe out of all the municipal stuff, the Corrales people, but I mean, I really find it difficult to believe I'm going to be above the presidential election.
You won't
So
be,
you'll be odd
Oh, yeah,
years.
you're right. Okay,
Yeah.
you're right.
the odd year.
Yeah.
But even state ranking stuff, we would be above. I mean, they say we would be
That's the information I've been given.
interesting. Okay, and then from a voting location standpoint, people having issues with the voting locations moving. I worry that once Sandoval County has control of it, that they'll also then have control of the voting locations moving, and then I don't know if we can get that guaranteed to where they're going to leave them where they are.
There is a stipulation in the election code that we can put in a request for certain locations that the county has. I don't know if has to is quite the right term, but there is a way we can request specific locations.
Okay, and so in your mind, what is the downside of this, if any exists? What would you say would be the cons of us moving to the Sandoval County model?
I think just people getting used to it again, knowing that the election for municipal officers is in November and not March. So we would need to get that word out that is changing.
Councilor Alsobrooke, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have a few, I'm hoping. I'm getting a bit lost in a swirl of dates in here. What are, in odd years, what are the state elections?
So it's school board and then special districts like SCAFCA.
And that's it, that's all we would be.
That's what I was finding on,
That's what's
yeah.
been going on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right, okay.
Yeah.
So there's no concern about us being suddenly pushed into what is essentially a non-partisan race, into the partisan campaigns for.
Correct. Yeah, it would still be a
the other state
nonpartisan, yeah.
offices.
Even if we opted in, it would still be
Right,
nonpartisan.
okay, thank you. Yes, you mentioned there were six or so other municipalities in Sandoval who still do it this way.
Yeah.
Do we have any inkling of what the other 5 are intending on doing?
I do. So in 2022, of the 106 municipalities, 26 did their own elections statewide. Since then, 5 have opted in. I know Taos just opted in. The Village of Bosque Farms is having this same discussion right now. Let's see, Rio Rancho is going to stay doing their own elections. Bernalillo does their own elections. Los Ranchos opted in. I had a list of,
But Rio Rancho has a charter, right?
Yeah, they're home rule.
yeah,
Home rule
Yeah.
or something like that, yeah.
and Peralta also opted in.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I just have one other question, which is probably for our attorney, and then one comment. So I won't bug you any further. Thank you for your answers. So I'll start this. So if the choices were, and I realize this is just discussion night, there's no action or anything.
Correct, that's correct.
The choices were shorten by
3 months.
for 3 or 4 months, extend by 20 months, or leave as is. In that extend by 20-month scenario, how does that go with just basic state law and constitutional considerations? Because we're de facto appointing to a term that? It's a very good question. The reason there's no constitutional violation is because your offices are not constitutional offices. County offices and then state offices are constitutional offices, but theoretically, the argument is municipal offices are not. Therefore, the legislature was free to give this option of shortening or lengthening the terms. So that is where that came from. And as far as I know, hasn't been a challenge to it. So it is the state of the law, and just puts you guys in an awkward situation. You know, it's like, I want to stay 20 months more, and everybody goes, boo. but you know, I mean, it puts you in an awkward situation. But there are most local jurisdictions have chosen that option simply because running elections is hard, and you place a tremendous amount of burden on your clerk to do that when they're already busy with all of their other duties. Sure. They have very small offices compared to the county clerk's office, and the county clerk does all of the elections. So it is just a much better fit, if you will. And then also, if elections are always in November, every year, people get more used to that. Yeah. And March is a very odd time, and school boards were in February, so you had these elections all year long, which made turnout low. So the theory is, and I don't know if Melanie, if you've heard, I haven't heard a lot about whether turnout has gone up or not, but if it is a good thing to have more turnout, the argument is if you pool all of the elections together, there's more people voting.
And I did put the election numbers for the last several elections in your packet.
Councilor Woolman? Oh, sorry,
Wasn't
John.
finished.
Go ahead.
Sorry. That was good. Thank you for that answer. Yes, so the rest are just two comments. One is I do agree there's voter confusion because of the way we have our dates and times structured for all the various offices. So I see the positive effect of that. There's a downside that I don't think was mentioned, and I think I read it correctly. It's that candidates would now have to file at the county clerk office. Whereas right now, I had to go the first time I ever did it just so they could prove I was a voter. But from then on, I filed here at the municipal office.
Right.
So there are years where we have a hard time getting candidates, and that just, you know, throws a speed bump in their way because they're busy and, oh no, it's 4 o'clock. I got to get up to my daily already. So there's one comment. And then the only other comment was not that we should be spendthrifts or anything like that, because we are shepherds of the people's money. I wouldn't use the cost savings here as much of a driver for anything. It's under 0.1% of our entire whole budget over 2 years. So I think it's fine. I think we need to be aware of it, and it's a fair question to ask.
Yeah. Well, and I do know that when this came before council, before, the information was that it only costs $5,000 to do an election.
Which is clearly wrong.
Yeah, and so just make sure we have all the information, and
Okay, that's it for my question.
Councilor Woolman.
Mayor, thank you. Melanie, do we have a sense of all the communities that have opted to do this? How many have gone for the shortened time, and how many have gone for the longer time?
from what I understand, most communities have shortened their term of
Shortened.
office. Yeah. I don't think I've heard of one yet that has increased their terms. But I could be wrong.
I was representing the town of Edgewood when they went through this, and they lengthened their terms. And there was controversy over it, just because you are giving yourself an extension of the term, which is, like I said, it's very awkward, although shortening it has its downsides as well, because one can argue that all of you are learning how to do your jobs, and once you've learned it, we want as much service out of experienced elected officials as we can. So, I mean, there are good arguments for it, but it just certainly is a tough thing to wrap your mind around.
And if you do vote in a increase in pay for the council members, it would take effect after the next election. So there is that.
Councilor Burkett.
I just have one point of clarification. You said there's 6 municipalities in Sandoval County that are not opted in yet?
Correct.
I mean, best I see, there's only 7 municipalities in Sandoval County. So there's only one that has opted in?
I think that's Los Ranchos.
Okay. Oh, Los Ranchos isn't in.
Oh, no, they're not in Sandoval County, are they?
No.
Brilliant.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it seems like Sandoval's kind of reaching here, that nobody has really opted to let Sandoval run their elections yet. Do we know if anyone else in Sandoval County is considering this now?
Now, does that include school boards and other organizations?
No,
Just
just
towns?
towns.
These are
Yeah,
just
that's just towns,
municipalities?
just municipalities, yeah. I know Bernalillo is not considering opting in, and neither is Rio Rancho.
Right.
I don't know about any of the others.
Okay. I mean, so we would kind of be the canary in the coal mine to see what sort of job they do.
We might.
I'm not sure that's the best analogy.
I love that analogy.
Yes, Councilor Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple quick questions on this one. We're paying 18,000, or I'm sorry, 10 for our election right now. Could go up a little bit more. We're running our own, we're putting a little bit more, and I understand the concept about that. Is the county helping us out? Is in the details of who's paying for how much? Is the county in a way supporting this?
So the county provides all of the voting tabulators at no charge. And then they've asked that we purchase the memory cards for the voting tabulators going forward as well. It's a minimal cost, couple $100. But yeah, they do provide.
They put their
yeah.
fair share. I don't know, it's fair, but they put a share.
They
in.
put a share in, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On
And that would continue whether we opted in or not.
Okay. On that point, then I think when you're talking earlier about whether or not we're going to be on the top or not, and where we're going to be having the polling places, I think it's one of those shall or may kind of situations. You said, well, maybe they're supposed to, maybe they're not. I was remembering the shall or may,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
They shall do it or they may do it, and it looks like it's more of a may do it at this particular point in time. And I asked that question, only to ask this one. I remember when we first had this conversation, it always remained in my mind about the fact that the county or maybe the state had some problems with the fact that our voting machines are not secure for where we're at. We don't have to worry about that problem. If the county's running wherever they put it, that's their problem, whether they're secure or not, or it's up to them to secure it would be the final question.
It would be, but we would have to make sure, like if we were allowing them to use our community center, we have to make sure that we've collected all the keys from people that rent the community center on a regular basis, you know, just to ensure that somebody's not going in there and messing with the stuff at night.
And based on that, that was the question, that
Yeah.
it'd still be appropriate then or in the future, but even more then it'd be on their back, whether or
it
not they're secured enough. Don't ask us, you have to ask the county, they're running our elections. We can pretty much buff it off to them at those important times. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waldman.
Mayor, Melanie, if we decide not to do anything, have you had discussions about making the situation better in your office? In other words, we don't go with the county option.
Right.
Is there a way to make it a little bit better for you? It has to be in your office.
It has to be in my office. So yeah, and it can't be used for other activities during that time. So say we decide to use our newly remodeled conference room.
Right.
We can't have any meetings in there during that entire month of February. So, I mean, there's challenges. Just from a space perspective, you know, even if we use our conference room, it's still not big enough for 5 people to vote. There's not room for five little voting booths in there, so.
Yes, sir, John.
Thank you for all the information you've brought to us, and this in no way diminishes everything you've done for us and are telling us. I'm wondering if we could invite somebody from the Sandoval County Bureau of Elections to come and talk to us, given that nobody in Sandoval County has used them yet.
They won't, they are not allowed. I actually asked.
I don't think, they're not allowed, are they?
No, they're not allowed. So I actually asked Tina Dominguez, who was clerk here in Corrales back in the early 2000s. She's now our county elections clerk. And so I asked her if she would be able to write some sort of a letter, just detailing how this would affect the village. And they are not allowed to come in and influence the council in any way. So they don't want to be, you know, even though they got up and said, hey, we're not going to help you as much next election, that they're actually, I did ask if they could do that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think they may be using that as a shield. I mean, with that kind of logic, anybody who comes and prevents information to us is influencing us.
Yeah. And I do want to be clear, I'm not asking you to consider this because I don't want to run the election. I'm perfectly fine. You know, I actually kind of had some fun running it. It was long days, but I do want to make that clear that I'm not trying to shirk my responsibilities as clerk. But I did feel like this, you know, when I found out that you had information that it was only $5,000 and it's not a big deal, I just thought, it doesn't hurt to ask and it doesn't hurt to have the discussion. And if you decide to stay in March, that's perfectly fine.
Counselor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilors. So looking at your numbers, it looks like to me that the municipal officer elections were higher than the regular elections in the odd years.
You are correct.
So do you think then that we're going to get more people to turn out in the odd year?
I do think so. I think, I mean, if you look at the numbers during the even year elections, I mean, we've got over 5,000 people coming out to vote. And then for a municipal officers election, it's just over 2,000. So where are those other 3,000 people going?
Well,
You know?
that's a general election that is national, that is state.
Yep.
So that's a little bit different animal than what we're talking
is.
about right now.
But also, if we get people in the habit of coming out every November to vote, we might see that number increase.
Okay, but the other concern I have, I was talking to one of Zach's constituents today, and she knew nothing about this discussion that we were going to have tonight. So we need to get the public involved in this as well.
Well, that
Yeah,
would
this
happen.
is just
if-
dipping our toe in the water.
We're just
I know
trying to
dipping our toe in
explain
the
to
water,
you.
But it's still, I mean, it was on the agenda. I know it was published and so forth, but she had no idea because she didn't see it in your Friday newsletter that you send out because there was, you know, about the discussion.
I'm not sure we put anything in there.
We did.
Well, we did. There was a
It wasn't this past Friday, I don't think, but it was the Friday before.
Well, anyway, she reads them fairly faithfully, but her comment was she didn't see anything in this past one. But it's something I think that we got to get the public involved in because I'm not going to make a decision up here based on just my feeling about it because I really need to know what my public is considering this. Whether I get shortened or lengthened or get kicked out or whatever, I don't care. But I mean, it's something that I think the public has to be involved in.
Yeah.
Well, there was no plan for a decision tonight.
Well, I understand that.
It was mostly for information because I didn't feel like you had gotten accurate information before.
Yeah.
We've opted 23, well, to odd year elections at SCAFCA. It's worked out fine. It's been no issue. We were concerned there, if we had a bond proposal, we wanted it to be on the election in the even years with the national election because we would have a greater turnout and fewer people who were sort of against everything could be, the few people who seem to be against a lot of the bond elections would be diluted by those who were in favor of it, so to speak. So we didn't want to just have it in a 23 because we were concerned at first that there might not be a turnout. I use 23 because that's the next one. But the odd year elections, as turned out, we've had a very good turnout as far as electing SCAFCA representatives, SCAFCA director, excuse me. Somebody had their hand up.
Well, I was going, one more comment was
Okay.
that I would also like to have seen some data from other communities who have opted in is to see if they had seen increases in their election cycles versus the original election cycle. Because, yeah, I can look at our numbers and say, well, they might increase, we don't know, but how has other communities that opt in, how do they look?
If you're interested, we will look into that.
I think
If you're
that would
not
be- I
interested,
think that would be a good
then
data point.
it's unnecessary. Yes, sir.
I just, reading the opt-in election calendar, I just want to make sure I understand. But if we were to take this action and use the shortened version, that would be a relatively rapid time course, right? We would only have until the middle of June or the end of June to take that action?
We would have to opt in by the end of June.
Okay.
And then the candidate declaration day would be in August. So yes, it would be
Thank you.
shortened.
Okay, so if we beat this horse? Okey-doke.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, Melanie. Thanks for all the work you did, too. So announcements and future agenda items, perhaps an update on animal ordinance regarding microchipping and a special meeting on 314 at 5:30. 314 is our next regular council meeting, and we'll have a special hearing at 5:30 before an appeal hearing of a P and Z approval for a short-term rental. Anybody else have anything else that they would like to see on a future agenda? Yes, Councilor Burkett.
I mean, to Counselor Knight's point, I would still like to have a discussion about animal services, and I know that this is a time-sensitive issue, but we had to vote tonight on shredding some documents that follow a shredding document policy. It seems like if we're paying money for a foundation, even though we're not paying for the structure, but in the past, we've had to vote to receive grants. So similar situation where I just feel like this is a big project for there not to be any counselor or community input. It's a actual voting situation.
Yes, sir, Councilor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. I would also like to have a short discussion about the ACE committee and whether
They're coming, what was that, end of March?
End of March,
1st
beginning of April.
They're going to come and do a presentation.
Well, what concerns me is the presentation they gave last time. There was some quid pro quo type services offered to them, either legally or through design services. And I'm concerned about the transparency of any future contracts that we may have, that I don't want any conflicts between this committee and maybe I want to say, what's the other one? What they're trying to do right now is form a nonprofit.
Correct. We're concerned about that too, and we've been addressing that every meeting.
Well, we should think about if they've gotten the nonprofit going, then they should be disbanded as a committee then. I would just either a discussion on that and see where it falls.
Okay, anybody else? All right, looks like we have completed the business session. Remember, the next regular meeting is March 14th, and we'll have an appeal at 5:30, regular meeting at 6:30. This meeting is adjourned.